Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥.
Hello friends, this is Vijay. Welcome to ForumIAS Hindu Daily. In our today's news discussion, let us discuss the topics in the slide. The first topic is related to Nari Adalat. So it is an exclusive women court. And secondly, we are having why is China limiting exports of raw materials? China, in recent time, they have been limiting certain critical elements which are required for the production of the digital gadgets, then semiconductors, for the fifth generation industrial revolution, right? Then thirdly, we are having why are India-Russia trade payment in crisis? With respect to the oil trade between India and Russia, there are certain core payment issues have been persisting. So the article have been discussing about that. Then fourthly, we are having archaeologists came up with rare findings in Tamil Nadu. Archaeologists recently, they had found some Sangam age findings in the range of Tamil Nadu. Then fifthly, we are having Ayushman Bharat scheme extension of services. So we all well know in the year of 2018, the government, they came up with Ayushman Bharat scheme. It is the world's largest insurance scheme. So under that, the government have been providing several packaged services for the patients under both secondary and tertiary care. But these days, the government have been expanding the bucket of services what they have been providing to the public. So without any further delay, let us dive into the discussion part. This is the first article, guys. The article title, Coming Women Only Court for Alternative Dispute Resolution. I hope you might have known about the principles of alternative dispute resolution. In the Lakshmikant book, he actually stated about certain ADR mechanisms, right? So here the government, the union government, they came up with a new initiative with respect to women. So it is exclusive for women, and the alternative dispute resolution is termed as Nari Adalat. So Nari Adalat, okay? So Nari means women, right? So the scheme, it will get implemented in 50 villages. That's what they had given here, 50 villages each in Assam and Jammu and Kashmir. And after 6 months, with the feedback from the pilot project, the scheme will be expanded to the rest of the country. Then, with respect to the Nari Adalat, it is a ADR mechanism, right? Alternative Dispute Resolution Mechanism. So here, after the establishment of the Nari Adalat, it is expected that the issues pertaining to women won't come to court in a large scale, which means the burden on the court will be reduced. Also, the women will be getting a fair and the precise trial under the ADR mechanism, which will also save the resources and time for the women, right? Now let us discuss a brief about Nari Adalat. So here they had given that it is a pilot scheme of union government and it is going to get established in the states of Assam and in Jammu and Kashmir. Initially, they will handpick some 50 villages. Then after getting the feedback from the pilot project, the scheme will be implemented in the rest of the country. Then who will be the implementation agency for Nari Adalat? The primemost agency is Ministry of Women and Child Development. Then the Ministry of Women and Child Development, it will collaborate with the Ministry of Panchayat Raj and Ministry of Rural Development and Common Service Centers. You all will know the Meitei, they established several common service centers, right? So they will also be a part of the implementation protocols. Then how about the membership? Each and every Nari Adalat, it will consist of 7 to 9 members. So among the 7 to 9 members, half of the members will be elected Gram Panchayat members. So in each and every village, we are having Panchayat Raj system, right? So 50% of the members, they will come from the elected group of Panchayat, right? Then rest 50%, it will come from the eminent group of persons in the village. Who are the eminent persons in the village? He or she may be a doctor, a teacher, and some novel persons, right? So these persons, they will form a part of the Nari Adalat. And here, the mediation, the negotiation and all will be happen. Rather than following the conventional court process, here the negotiation, then mediation and all will be happen to resolve the issue between the party 1 and party 2. Then what will be the tenure? With respect to the Nari Adalat, each and every member who are part and parcel of a Nari Adalat, they are having 6 months tenure, right? Then the chief of the Nari Adalat will be elected from the group of members. So we are selecting some 7 to 9 members, right? From them, we are going to select a chief. So this is what they had stated here. And with respect to the Nari Adalat, anyway, it is going to reduce the burden on the court, right? Already the court, both the High Court, then District Courts, then Supreme Court, they are all having heavy burden with respect to the pending cases. So with the establishment of the Nari Adalat in each and every village, it is expected that the issues which pertains to women will not reach the floor of the court. So this is what we can expect. Then with respect to the significance, what is the significance of the establishment of Nari Adalat? As I already told you, it will reduce the burden of the court, right? Apart from that, the accessible and affordable dispute resolution mechanism will be provided to women. And in alternative dispute resolution mechanism, it won't take much time to resolve the case, because here, as I already told you, instead of following the conventional court process, we will be following the principles of negotiation, conciliation and mediation. So therefore, it won't take much time to resolve the issue. Therefore, it will save both the resource and time for each and every woman who are living in the village. Then what are the services they are going to provide under the Nari Adalat? Means, first and foremost, dispute and grievance redressal. So each and every woman, if they are having any grievance or dispute, means then they can approach the Nari Adalat. And there the negotiation will happen, then mediation between the parties will be arranged, then reconciliation. So for carrying out the reconciliation, some third party people, they will be presiding the Nari Adalat. So the third party member will be from the members who are part and parcel of the Nari Adalat, right? And here they are going to make a evidence-based decision making. After hearing the issues from both party 1 and party 2, the decision making and all will be happen only based on the evidence what the parties are providing to the members, right? Then it is expected that the Nari Adalat, they will function as a pressure group. So in each and every village, if we are having a conventional pressure group, means then we can promote several aspects related to the schemes, then rights of the people, etc. and all, right? So this is what we can expect in the future. The Nari Adalat, it will function as a pressure group. Then with the implementation of the Nari Adalat, officially we are extending the provisions of 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments to the women. So under the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment, we are having a liability to promote the democracy in the grassroots level, right? So with the implementation of the Nari Adalat, the provisions of the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment is going to extend to the women. Then as a pressure group, they will carry out several awareness programs. What are the awareness programs they will carry out? They will extend what are the women's rights, right? Then they will promote about the legal opinions with respect to the issues pertaining to women. Then they may also carry out the awareness and the promotions related to the government schemes, right? Then what is feedback and closed loop system? From each and every village member, especially women, they will collect their feedback about the implementation of the protocols under the Nari Adalat and how it have been impacting the rural people. So these stuffs and all they will be collected and they will refine the functions of Nari Adalat. So basically they are following a self-correction mechanism under the Nari Adalat, right? So with this note, let us move on to the next article. This is the second article, guys. Why is China limiting exports of raw materials? So on July 3rd, the Chinese government, their Ministry of Commerce, they came up with certain notice with respect to the exports of two critical elements. One is germanium and another one is gallium. So in that notice, they actually stated that the exporters of these two critical elements, they need to get the license from the Ministry of Commerce. Then they need to provide the list of importers in the foreign nations to whom they are exporting the material. So these details and all have been asked by the Chinese government. Then if there is any violations means, then there will be a penal imposition upon the exporters by the Chinese government. They also stated that those violations will be deemed as a crime, right? Then guys, with respect to this article, we need to know certain basic tenets in the past. So in the recent past, the US, in the year of 2022, they actually restricted certain critical components. They actually restricted certain critical components to China. And they stated that on the basis of their national interest and foreign policy, they are actually restricting the exports to China. So this is what stated by the US. So in the recent protocol, the Chinese government, they actually use the same term. On the basis of the national interest and foreign policy, they are going to restrict the exports of the germanium and gallium. So this is like a tit for tat between US and China. Then with respect to gallium, we are well known it is having several applications, right? The first and foremost is the gallium arsenide. It is forming a substrate of semiconductor. So almost 80% of the semiconductor which are produced in this world is having gallium arsenide as a substrate. Then apart from that, this gallium element, it is also used in the manufacture of certain communication and satellite components like integrated circuits, then some sensors, then LEDs. They are also having applications in the automotives, lightning systems, then several sensors in avionics, space, right? Then with respect to the germanium, China is producing 60% of the global production with respect to the germanium. And this germanium element, it is used in the fiber optic cables, right? Then it is also used in the defense and military equipments as sensors, especially for surveillance, then target acquisition, then for reconnaissance purposes. So in all these devices, germanium is used. Then you might have known about the infrared imaging, right? So germanium, generally they are having a tendency to absorb the heat. So that's what they are used in the infrared imaging and all. So in Jammu and Kashmir, most of the military personnel, they will be using the infrared imaging to trace the movement of the ultraviolets. So on the basis of that principle, the germanium, it is also used in the solar panels because, as I already told you, germanium is having high tendency to absorb the energy, right? So to increase the efficiency of the solar panel, this germanium component is used, right? Then they have been discussing about the concerns. So basically, the European Commission, they actually depending upon the imports from China, especially with respect to the germanium and gallium. As I already told you, 60% of the global production of germanium is coming from China and about 80% of the gallium is coming from China. And even some minor producers are there around the world. They are producing 20% stake with respect to the gallium production. But the gallium, what the minor producers are producing is of low grade, and the impurities and all will be very high in the production which is coming from the minor producers. So that's what each and every country around the world, indirectly and directly, they are depending upon China for the crucial elements like gallium and germanium. Then several countries, they actually responded to the trade restriction by China. And especially with respect to these trade restrictions, we need to know what will be the impact on India, right? And in the article, they actually stated that in the short run, yes, there will be a supply chain disruption because of the trade restrictions imposed by China. Anyway, in the month of August, it will come to enforcement. After that, India will face some short-term supply disruptions with respect to the critical elements like germanium and gallium. But in the long run, India actually depending upon several arrangements. So we all well known, India and the US, they are having a initiative on critical and emerging technology, right? India US ICET. So under that, they are having a clear vision for ensuring the critical element supply, because both India and the US, they know very well about the importance of the critical elements in this era. So that's what they are having several arrangements to manage the trade restrictions imposed by China. Apart from that, in the article, they also discussed about several alternatives and substitutes. And with respect to the alternative, they actually discussed about the byproducts, what we are deriving from the processing of zinc and alumina. So in the byproduct, we can find huge number of germanium and gallium compounds. Therefore, we can reinforce these methods to extract huge volume of germanium and gallium. Then with respect to the substitutes, we are having indium and silicon. So indium and silicon can be used as an alternative for germanium and gallium in the critical components. So this is what it have been discussed in the article. According to me, the article as such is not very important from the perspective of exam, but it will give some glimpses over the interconnected world in the globalized era, right? With this note, let us move on to the next article. This is the third article, guys. The article title is Why are India-Russia Trade Payment in Crisis? With respect to this article, we all well known that Russia, it kickstarted its special military operations upon Ukraine on Feb 21, 2022, right? After that, the Western countries, they came up with sanctions. Certain countries, they imposed a blanket ban on the imports from Russia. But certain countries, they actually imposed price cap mechanism upon the oil exports from Russia. So if any oil, if it is getting exported from Russia above the price of $60 per barrel means, then Russia can't receive the payment in US dollars. So this is the price cap mechanism what the Western countries had imposed upon Russia. And we all well know, in the past, India's major oil suppliers were from three regions majorly. One from the West African region, right? Then from Arab region, then US. So from the West Africa, we are having suppliers from Libya, Angola, Nigeria. Then from Arab region, we are having suppliers from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, then Iraq, right? Then from US, we have been purchasing the shale oil, right? So traditionally, these three regions have been fueling the vehicles in India. But with the special military operations, what it carried out upon Ukraine, it faced several sanctions from Western countries. Then it actually approached India for discounted oil. So since then onwards, India have been receiving the discounted oil from Russia. And Russia, it have been providing the oil below $60 per barrel, right? So Indian refineries, they have been fetching huge profits from the Russian supply. And here in this portion, they actually discussed about the quantum of trade, that too with respect to the oil trade happening between India and Russia. So previously we were importing only 2.5 billion US dollars worth of oil. But after the special military operations, the imports have been skyrocketed, and Russia recently it replaced Iraq and it became a major supplier of oil for India. In the month of February 2023, it replaced Iraq and Russia became the major oil supplier to India. And in these days, we have been importing almost 46 billion US dollars worth of oil from Russia. And we all well known with respect to the pricing and payment arrangements, initially we were having rupee-ruble trade, right? The settlements and all will be settled in rupee and ruble. But, we were exporting only 3 billion US dollar worth of goods. But Russia have been exporting 46 billion US dollar worth of oil, right? So there is a major gap between the 3 billion exports of India and the 46 billion exports of oil from Russia, right? So Russia, it couldn't able to utilize the rupee reserves what it had staked under the payment from India. So that's what Russia, it convinced India to receive the payment in either in Chinese yuan or in the UAE dirham. So in these days, India have been paying the payments in the form of US dollar, Chinese yuan and UAE dirham. So this is how the system have been operating in these days. Then with the imposition of sanction, Russia was banned from the SWIFT mechanism. So previously our exporters, they actually dispatched some 500 million worth of goods to Russia. But the exporters from India, they didn't receive the payment because of the Western sanction with respect to the SWIFT system. So these are all the facts they had given in this portion. And what about the rupee-ruble mechanism? So this is what they have been discussing here. This is highly important from the perspective of exam. Here they have been discussing about the concerns from both India and from Russia. Russia had clearly stated that we don't have any utilization with respect to the rupee resource what they are having. So this is the statement made by Russia. And with respect to Russia, the rupee is highly volatile, right? So this is what they have been stating. And with respect to the concerns of India, the first and foremost is the value of ruble. Ruble is a Russian rupee, right? So the ruble, the value is determined by the Russian central bank and it is not based on the market driven mechanism. So this is the first and foremost concern for India. Then India is having huge trade deficit. Here you can see the trade deficit touched 43 billion US dollar in the year of 2022-2023. So this much trade deficit we have been owing with respect to the trade between India and Russia. Then the article have been discussing about is de-dollarization being attempted. Generally, we all well known throughout the world, the trade settlements and all have been getting paid in the US dollars or in the euro currency. So till today, the share of US dollar in the global trade settlement is 42.6%, right? So this is the share of US dollar. Whereas with respect to the euro, till today, it is having 36.2% share in the global trade settlements. Whereas India's rupee is having only 1.5% share in the global trade settlements, and we are exporting the volume of goods what we are exporting is only 2% of the net global trade, which means countries who are procuring the goods and getting paid in rupee, they don't have any avenues in the future payments and all to be done. So this is the major concern for the Indian rupee. Then here in this portion, they actually have been discussing about the US sanctions and all. US, it have been using the dollar as a weapon. If any country is violating the interest of US means, then US will be coming up with the sanctions, right? Then it will prohibit the country X to be made a payment in the dollar. So these are all the stuffs and all have been carrying out by the United States traditionally. So this is what it have been discussed here. Then with respect to India-Russia oil trade, if Indian refiners, if they are settling the payments in Chinese yuan or UAE dirham means, then obviously we are promoting the interest of China, right? Indirectly we are promoting the interest of China by paying in a Chinese yuan. So this is what it have been discussed in this portion. Then in the conclusion, the author have been discussing that we can make settlements in Chinese yuan. We are not supposed to concern about how it will be looking geopolitically. Else, we can persuade Russia to invest in energy projects in India, or we can persuade Russia to purchase the government bonds. So that's how we can make certain arrangements like that. The author have been discussing in the conclusion part, right? Now with this note, let us move on to the next article. This is the fourth article, guys. Archaeologists come up with rare findings in Tamil Nadu. So recently, the archaeologists, they excavated the carnelian bead, then bone point, then gold stud from the Purpanai-Kottai region in Pudukottai district of Tamil Nadu. So these are all the findings they had found in the excavated region. And here it had been given that the bone point and the broken piece of carnelian bead, they were found at a depth of 140 to 160 centimeter in another trench. The bone point with pointed ends on both sides and carvings was probably used for weaving. So this bone point, it was used for weaving. Then the discovery of the red round-shaped carnelian bead. So this is the carnelian bead, right? So it is a pointer to the domestic trade. So they had stated that carnelian generally found in the region of Gujarat, but in the excavated region, the carnelian beads were found, right? So it stated that there was a trade exist between the regions of Tamil Nadu and the Gujarat. So this is what we can infer from the findings of the archaeologist. Then they also stated that all these findings, it belongs to the Sangam age. And in these times, you all well known, UPSC have been asking several questions from the Sangam period, right? So let's have a brief recap about the Sangam age. And this is a brief about the Sangam age. Here in the image you can see certain regions belongs to Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Sri Lanka, right? So these regions, it will be termed as a Tamilagam. And here the boundaries of Cheras, Pandyas and Cholas had been given, and several important places in those regions and all have been given. So you might have known about the Muchiri, right? Recently the UPSC had asked a question. And here Korkai is nothing but the port Tuticorin. Tuticorin you might have known, right? It is a major port. So the Korkai is nothing but a Tuticorin. And here Kaveri Patnam, and in this region we are having Puhar. Puhar is one of the populous harbor of Cholas. And here they had given that the Sangam period or age particularly refer to the third Sangam period. Generally there are 3 Sangams are there, but we are having evidence from second and third Sangams. And this region belongs to the parts of Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Sri Lanka, and all this region referring by the common term of Tamilagam, right? Then the timeline of Sangam age is 6th century BC to 3rd century BC, like that they had given. But the most probable date of Sangam literature has been fixed between 3rd century BC to 3rd century AD. So based on the literature evidences, the 3rd century BC to 3rd century AD had been fixed as a timeline of Sangam age. And with respect to the Sangam age, we are having huge evidences from the literature and from the archaeological and from numismatic evidences, right? So according to the Tamil legends, there existed 3 Sangams. Sangams are nothing but a confluence. So in that confluence, the sages, poets from various regions, they will be visiting the king and they will be portraying the intellectual material what they had brought. So this is how Sangam Sandal had functioned. And the first Sangam, it was held at Madurai and it was attended by gods and legendary sages, but no literary work of the Sangam was available. We don't have any evidence with respect to the first Sangam, right? Then second Sangam, it was happened in Kabadapuram. So Kabadapuram is a region near Madurai, but all the literary works had perished except Tolkappiyam. So till today we are having Tolkappiyam as a evidence of second Sangam period. Then we are having third Sangam. Third Sangam, it was happened at Madurai and it was founded by Mudathiru Maran, right? So he is the Pandyan king and he presided the third Sangam. So it was attended by large number of poets who pronounced voluminous literature, but only a few had survived. Kindly go through the literature of Sangam period, because in the future we can expect questions from the Sangam literature and all, right? Now with this note, let us move on to the last article. This is the last article, guys. Center adding more services to Ayushman Bharat health centers. So we all well known, in the year of 2018 budget, the government had launched the Ayushman Bharat health scheme, and under the scheme we are having 2 components. One is PMJ, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. This is a insurance component. Then we are having health and wellness centers, right? So this is the second component. And with respect to the Ayushman Bharat scheme, it is the world's largest health insurance scheme, and it is fully financed by the government. This is what it had been given here. And recently, the government have been adding several new services into the scheme. So they have been adding screening, prevention, and control and management of non-communicable diseases. Apart from that, they are also including certain provisions related to the ophthalmic and ENT problems and all. So ENT means eyes, nose, and throat, right? Then NCDs, you might have known, non-communicable diseases, right? Diabetes, hypertension, then heart diseases, these all will be termed as NCDs. Then, apart from these services, they are also including the screening and management of mental health ailments. So, mental health care and all have been brought under the Ayushman Bharat scheme. Then, palliative care. So, palliative care and elderly care. So, services related to the palliative care and elderly care also included under the Ayushman Bharat scheme from now onwards. So, to implement these services, government have been expanding the drugs availability under the scheme, and they are also equipping the manpower to provide the services. For that, they are actually going to provide certain trainings to the ASHA workers, Anganwadi workers, then auxiliary nurse midwives, right? So this is what it had been discussed in the article. Then some senior officials, they stated that by 2026, 50% of the health and wellness centers, they will satisfy the standards what it had been set by the National Quality Assurance Standards Assessment Certification. So this is what it had been discussed in this portion, right? And from now onwards, the Ayushman Bharat scheme, it will also focus on the primary care. So till today, it was focusing only on the secondary and the tertiary care, right? So with the inclusion of the new services, it will now focus on primary health care also. And while launching the scheme, it was expected that it will satisfy 10.74 crore poor and vulnerable people. But today, it provided services to 178 crore people in the country. So 178 crore beneficiaries, they enrolled under the Ayushman Bharat scheme. And this scheme, it has been providing cashless access to the healthcare services for the beneficiary at the point of services. So these stuffs and all have been discussed here. Now let us move on to the next slide. So this is the image from the National Health Agency. So a cover of rupees 5 lakh per family per year had been given, and this was the target of what they envisioned while launching the scheme, right? Then under the scheme, states have given the flexibility to decide on the mode of implementation. Certain states, they are not implementing the PMJ because they are having their own insurance schemes. So that's what they are not rolling out the PMJ in their territory. And the benefits will be portable across the country. So beneficiaries, if they are enrolled under the PMJ means, they can take the service anywhere in the country. And it was expected that around 85% of the rural families and 60% of the urban families will be covered under the PMJ scheme. So this is the basic tenet of the PMJ scheme. And with respect to the eligibility, there is no restrictions on the family size, age or gender, right? So even 60 years elder or 20 years adult, they can be a part of the scheme. All pre-existing conditions are covered from day one. So even the person in the family, if he is having any NCDs means, it will be getting reimbursed under the scheme. Then it covers up to 3 days of pre-hospitalization and 15 days post-hospitalization expenses such as diagnostics and medicines. So under the scheme, all the consumables, then the transportations, everything will be covered. The benefits of the scheme are portable across the country, which means the family who are taking the service under the Ayushman Bharat scheme, they can take the service from anywhere, anytime across the country. Then services include approximately 1,393 procedures covering all the costs related to the treatment, including but not limited to drugs, supplies, diagnostic services, physician's fee, room charges, surgeon charges, OT and ICU charges. All the charges, end to end, all the charges have been clubbed under the Ayushman Bharat scheme. Then public hospitals are reimbursed for the healthcare services at par with the private hospitals. So if any patient, if he is taking any services in the public health establishment means, then the concerned establishment, it will get reimbursed under the National Health Protection Scheme, right? Now with this note, let us wind up the article here. Let us do a brief recap on what we have seen in our today's discussion. The first article is related to the Nari Adalat, right, where we have seen about the basic tenets of the scheme and the significance. So this is what we have seen in the first article. Then secondly, we have seen about the Chinese trade restrictions, right? We have seen about the past actions of the US and the present actions of the Chinese government. Then what will be the implications upon the India's interest? So these are all the stuffs we have seen in the second article. Thirdly, we had discussed about the payment crisis of Russia and India with respect to the crude oil trade. So this is what we had discussed, and in that portion, we actually discussed about the mechanisms what Russia and India have been following in the payment settlements. Then throughout the world, how the global trade settlements and all have been happening. Then we have seen about the Western sanctions and the SWIFT system. Then we discussed about the de-dollarization. So these are the stuffs we had covered in the third article. Then we had discussed about the archaeological findings in the fourth article, where we had discussed about the 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐻, right? We have seen a brief about the 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐻. Lastly, we had taken up a NHPS scheme, the 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 scheme, so under which we have seen about the provisions of the new services getting included in the scheme. So these are all the stuffs we have seen in our today's discussion. With this note, let us move on to the question part. This is the first question. 3D printing has applications in which of the following? The first option, preparation of confectionery items. Confectionery items are nothing but pastries. Then manufacture of bionic ears. Thirdly, automotive industries. Fourthly, reconstructive surgeries. Then lastly, data processing technologies. So in all these applications, we have been using the 3D printing, right? So the answer option D is the right one for the question number 1. Second question, which of the following are the reasons for the occurrence of multi-drug resistance, MDR resistance in microbial pathogens in India? In multi-drug resistance, the fungus or the bacteria or the virus will be resisting against the third layer of drugs, right? So this is the multi-drug resistance. And the first option they had given, genetic predisposition of some people. So this is not the right option for the multi-drug resistance. Genetic predisposition, it doesn't do anything with the multi-drug resistance. Then secondly, taking incorrect doses of antibiotics to cure their diseases. So many patients, they won't follow the course of antibiotics they are supposed to take. So this is the major reason. Thirdly, we are having using antibiotics in livestock farming. So we all well known in poultry and all, we have been excessively using the antibiotics, right? So these antibiotic residues, it will create multi-drug resistance in the pathogens. Then fourthly, multiple chronic diseases in some people. So these people, they will be taking excessive antibiotics, right? So the antibiotic residues, it will create the multi-drug resistance in the patients. So 2, 3, 4 are the right one, and the first option is the wrong one. Answer option D is the right for the question number 2. This is the third question. Consider the following. Bacteria, fungi and virus. Which of the above can be cultured in the artificial or synthetic medium? We can culture the bacteria, we can culture the fungi, but we can't culture the virus because virus need living host. So therefore, we can't culture the virus in a synthetic medium. So answer option A is the right one for the question number 3. Now with this note, we are arriving at the end of the discussion. I hope you would like the discussion and kindly subscribe in all social media platforms. Press the like button. Let me catch you in another discussion tomorrow. Thank you for your patience. Bye.